The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily represent those of this station or its management.
This is the Stockwell Roueche Show, giving you real-time information you need to make educated decisions about buying and selling in the world-renowned Twin Cities. Now your hosts and real estate experts, Jason Stockwell and Josh Roueche.
In-home care. What is it? Is it for you? That's the topic of the day today. We're very happy to have a special...
We're excited.
Very excited. So good morning, Minneapolis and St. Paul. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
I'm Josh Roueche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
And you're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show every Sunday at 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. We have an expert guest today, two expert guests today. Very excited to have them. Deb Nelson. She is the owner of Home Watch Caregivers. Welcome, Deb.
Yeah. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming down. And they do in-home care, and we're going to get into very in-depth about what it is, how it works, is it for you, and a lot of people don't consider it as an option or may not know that it's a viable option for someone who needs assistance or needs care and may not want to go to a nursing home or may not want to go into assisted living and stuff like that. So very, very good information. Lisa Swanson, Envoy Mortgage.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Good. I want to mention right away my NMLS number 261955.
You got that one in?
Oh,
I did, yep.
I love that. That's a great number.
Thank you.
So Lisa Swanson, Envoy Mortgage, will be giving you the mortgage update and talking about a lot of things, anything mortgage related. So first off, Josh Roueche.
Yes.
Market update. What's happening in the Twin Cities marketplace?
Yeah, I usually read stats. I'm going to read them as well, but it's crazy. It's getting really good out there as far as our Minneapolis market. Change in listings from last week. This time last year, we're up 22.1%. And change in pending sales, we're at 27.1%.
Pending sales
are up.
Are still outpacing. No matter you can throw on 22% more properties on the market than last year at this time.
Yep.
And you will still outpace the pending sales, meaning the properties that are going under contract, is still outpacing the new inventory coming on the market.
Which is great. And then
staggering.
Our inventory is up even 1.7%. So
overall inventory is up a little bit. So that tells me some of the homes that aren't selling, if your home is on the market and it's not selling, you need to do something different.
Talk to your agent or just
pricing, marketing, something different. Change it up because they are selling very fast if they're done right, if everything's done right on it. So otherwise, the overall market is great.
What do you think of my voice today?
Way better.
Way better? Way better. I think I should go sing karaoke.
You can do that. Maybe we'll do that.
It sounds fun today.
So market is good on the buy and sell side for home buyers and sellers right now. A lot of activity out there. Lisa Swanson, what's happening in the mortgage market?
Well, consumer spending actually rose slightly in February after dropping in January, but it's still considered really weak. So weak spending will keep interest rates low for at least a little while anyway. The Federal Chair, Janet Yellen, signaled that the Fed is not overly concerned with the low inflation, but it means they likely will start raising interest rates later in the year.
You know, we keep hearing that.
I know.
And it's still, it does rise up. They do go up a little bit, but then creep right back down. It's just weird that I keep hearing that. Everybody keeps saying their interest rates, and eventually it will happen. We just don't have a crystal ball to know exactly when that is going to take place.
Well, I've been in the industry for 12 years, and I've seen interest rates vary, and I've seen rumors. I've heard, there's always predictions, but you're right. None of us do have a crystal ball. I guess the idea is...
there's no algorithm. There's no...
Right. I mean, the idea is if one of them is pre-approved and you want to be a homeowner because there's several advantages to it, and you're happy with the payment options, with the inventory on the market, really just go for it. So that you don't have to wait out those risks or, be nervous about what that future looks like. One thing that I think is really interesting as well is, it's important to kind of compare mortgage rates with the growth of rent rates. And, in the past 20 years, conventional 30-year fixed mortgage rate has averaged about 3%. 3 points higher than the growth rate of rents. That margin is now 0.
Right.
So there is really no difference in payment-wise between renting and home ownership. So if, in addition to the fact that with new programs that we now have, the market is opening and, we're allowing more people to buy homes.
The only difference is really, though, when you're renting, you're paying someone else to pay for that property.
Yep.
Whereas when you have a home ownership, you're actually paying down a principal of something that you own, and you're buying down your equity when you're paying in.
You gain equity, and you gain and it's actually the number one leading pathway to wealth, gaining wealth. So the question though on that is, so normally the cost of home ownership has been 3 points higher, or 3%, overall, and that's actually 0. It's flat lines, meaning that it's the same overall cost when you factor in the extra cost of owning a home versus just renting.
Now, Lisa, is that locally or is that nationally?
It looks like nationally. I'm just getting some, paraphrasing really from Brian Westbury, a chief economist.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks like it's kind of a
I would bet, Jason, in our market right now, the rents are even higher.
It could be higher. It could be a negative. Right. You know what I mean? It could have gone from a home ownership might at some point be lower overall cost.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, with our market specifically.
In certain areas, I'm sure that's the case. New construction is going like mad right now. A lot of people are breaking ground. They're building. They're custom home building. If there's lots available, especially if you're in, say, Bloomington or in St. Louis Park, or if you're in an inner suburb or inner first ring suburb inside the ring of 494, 694 loop, they're really in high demand because they have all infill lots. And if you're outside of that, then they're doing developments, and there's all of them. It looks like they are selling. If they're not selling, something's wrong again. So point is, we want to get across to you, our loyal listeners out there, is if your home or someone you know has a home on the market and it's not selling, it should be selling in this time. If all times, it should be selling right now.
Or it's just priced wrong, and then that's where you got to just reach out to the real estate agent that you're currently using, or find another one to get that thing priced right.
Go to talktwincitiesrealestate.com. You can always find us at talktwincitiesrealestate.com. On the top banner, there's a click button there that's for a free home evaluation. No obligation, no cost. Click on it. You'll get an expert who will tell you from one of Josh's team or my team on what's going on with your home and the market of it, and you can compare that. You can always call us, 651-400-0773, 651-400-0773. One last little thing I wanted to talk about, Josh.
A little nugget?
A little nugget we want to talk about for the market update overall is Greece. We talked about Greece last week, and I hate to beat someone when they're down, but what's going on with Greece? There was an article recently I saw, or just today, it said that Greece could be out of funds within days of, like, no money, bankrupt.
That's crazy to me. That's just nuts. Knowing that a country like that can be bankrupt.
So I think what's happened, so Lisa, I think when you talk about the rates, it's a very delicate subject. The Fed doesn't want to do anything. Our economy is still delicate, meaning it's growing, but it's a soft, delicate deal. It's not something that we all can just say, "Whoom!" Everything's great, and no matter what we do, it's going to keep moving forward. They're walking a very soft, delicate path to make sure that they don't do anything to stir it up. And by implying they're going to raise rates, it's creating some demand fill right now, in the anticipation that rates are going to go up, but they don't want to do something that will slow things down when we're just getting some good traction in a lot of aspects. And so Barry White, who does our videography here, I'm going to call him out on this, but he saw a joke, or he read a joke to us here before the show started about Greece, and he said that the countries in Europe want to put, and I'm paraphrasing this, I don't know exactly, but what they want to do is they want to put Greece for sale on eBay, because they just want to get rid of Greece as part
eBay. Well,
you know what? I would buy it.
I bid $1.
I would bid on that.
So no, Greece, just let's try to figure it out. Stop spending, figure it out, get cleaned up, and then of course the Germans and everybody else will love you again, hopefully. So back to the show. We are very, very happy to
very excited.
Deb Nelson on in-home care. So if you're listening out there and you yourself are quoted the senior status or the silver hair tsunami, one of those groups that are 55 up, or if you have a parent or a family or loved one or coworker that you worry about or think about, periodically at night or during the day, or you're like, what if something happens to them? Or let's say they're living alone and they're a widower and someone passed away and they're in the house alone. This is the show for you to listen to and help.
Educational. This is what we try to do with our show.
Options.
Is make sure that you have options out there. And I love these type of shows because I learn so much from these type of shows that we do.
So without Deb Nelson, she is, again, the owner of Home Watch Caregivers. Let our family care for yours. So, Deb, again, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Deb, background on you. What got you into in-home care? And then we can get into a bunch of questions on that,
Sure.
on a lot of stuff after that. But.
Great. Yeah, I accidentally fell into home care like most of us. I knew nothing about home care. I was asked by a mutual friend to care for a woman's mom who they'd had a family caregiver for a while and it didn't work out. I was unemployed at the time, and I said, sure, I'll just try it for a while till I find a job.
Right.
Yep.
And I met this woman. I can say her name. Her name's Lorraine, and completely changed my life.
Really?
I said, how do I find out how to do this more? How can I help more people? Because I can by myself
touching
can only
people's
help.
lives, right.
Yes, I can only touch one person.
Right.
But there are so many
awesome.
people who need more help. And in her case, it wasn't really help as much as support. And I think that's important for people to know, is when it comes to home care, you don't need to be desperate and have, in fact,
Like, help me open the fridge and open.
Right. And in fact, if you talk to your parents, they're going to say, I don't need any help. I don't want any help. I'm
Right.
just
Oh,
fine.
stubborn.
Yeah. And I mean, these people they've lived through world wars. They've,
Right.
created lives for themselves. They've raised families.
Yeah.
They've owned businesses. They don't want to be help.
Right.
We oftentimes talk about it being support and allowing them to live independently at home longer.
Yep. So
is
that
great.
got
Which
you
is
into it.
great.
So you
That's
fell
what got me
you
into
fell
it.
into it accidentally. You just unemployed, and you said, "Hey, I'll help a friend
you
of a
out.
friend out."
Right.
And it touched you.
I met her in March, and by May I was talking to the Home Watch people, and by August I bought the
awesome.
franchise.
So
'Cause
March,
I knew.
May, and then when did you buy the franchise?
In August.
August.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
very
Yeah.
6 months. That's a
Yep.
my
Yeah,
math.
that's
I'm not doing it
awesome.
real quick, but 6
Yep.
month
Yep.
period or
And then we opened for business, and Lorraine was our first client. So,
Really? Nice.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
very cool.
So it's for some people, a lot of things you see in the media these days. They talk about it just being, oh, everybody should get into home care because it's a great way to make money. The people who just think about it as that kind of
Right.
a venture will not be here 5 years from now
No.
because it's a 24/7 business. You have to care about the people you care for, or because they need that. They want someone to care about them instead of just send somebody over that they don't know or that they haven't met and not being involved. So it's a bigger deal.
Big deal. I am very excited to get back into more with Deb Nelson when we return. Talking about, we're going to get into some stuff about what do you do if you're the sibling, and how do you handle that? And is it kind of like you're pawning it off, your responsibility? So we'll get into those things when we come back. You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with Remax Results.
Josh Roueche, Remax Advantage Plus.
Thanks.
Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true.
I still watch that show sometimes late at night if it's on TV.
So do I.
Golden
I
Girls.
love it.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
You all know that one. That was reminds me, that song just triggers it immediately watching
Golden
those girls. Welcome back. You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with Remax Results.
Josh Roueche, Remax Advantage Plus.
Talking about in-home care. Deb Nelson with Home Watch Caregivers, the owner. Let our family care for yours. And Deb was talking about how she got into it. She stumbled into it. She unemployed. It was in the 2010, 2011 time frame. And a friend of a friend asked her to help out with someone and say, hey, can you help them out at home? And then that just spurred the idea. And then within 6 months, she started with owning Home Watch Caregivers, and then launched and became open officially in January of 2012. So that's a very, very cool story.
I think it's great when you find something that inspires you and it just takes hold of you, and then
Right.
and doing what you love to do.
Right.
Which I think that's what path you took.
Right.
It's a great story.
It's funny. My degree is in human services, and I spent 30 years in the hair beauty business.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so finally now, 30 years later, I come back to my original, where I started,
right.
and actually using my degree. So
That's perfect. That's great. That's awesome. So what, as far as questions about in-home care that people have, what is in-home care exactly?
Right.
I mean, if you were to define it, well, how would you define it?
You know, it can be such a range. Home care is anything from simple support at home for people who need, oftentimes as you get older, maybe you have arthritis or movement issues, maybe you have Parkinson's, which is very common in Minnesota. And you just can't do the things you could do before, even if you're 100%, cognizant, but you can't cook anymore.
That's
it's
me
difficult.
right now.
Yeah, yeah. There's just think how bad you'll be by the time you're 65. So it can be something as simple as just helping prepare meals, healthy meals, and doing some laundry and housekeeping, all the way to someone who, people want to stay at home. 96% of people want to stay at home until they die. And if there can be simple things, we cared for a person who had a stroke and couldn't eat. She had a feeding tube, so our caregivers came in each day and fed her through the feeding tube. There can be that. You can provide that kind of care at home, yes, and then everything in between. So we like to talk about it as being support for wherever you need it. As we talk, our elders really are independent people. They have been their whole lives. They want to be independent until they can't be anymore. Yep. And if just a little bit of support is all they need, don't move them to an assisted living facility if all they need is a little bit of support. And they want to stay at home. Some people they want the community of assisted living, and that's okay. There's a place for everyone. But I think it's important for the adult children to take into account what their parents want and need. If they've lived in this house for 65 years and they have neighbors and friends and family who know how to come and see them, if you pick them up and move them to a facility and say, oh, you're going to have all these friends, they're 85 years old. Unless they're really social and are suddenly going to go out and start knocking on their neighbor's door and introduce themselves, what's going to happen is they'll pack them up and they'll move to an assisted living facility and they'll live in that room alone. Yeah,
that's sad.
Is there a question there? Is there like some kind of consultation that you can take as a child that has say my mom wanted to go somewhere and I was on the verge, like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Is there like a consultation that I can take as a child?
The best thing is to just talk to somebody you trust. In our case, there's a lot of people around. I mean, you could talk to care managers around town. I have people that we know that are geriatric care managers that could just give you advice on all the options. Generally, I'm a CSA certified senior advisor, which means I can also provide people with just answer some of their questions about I don't know what to do.
Right.
I think the most important thing is get information because there's so many choices out there. The choices are adding up every day, more and more places and things to choose from. But don't wait until there's a crisis in your family to find out what the options are.
Yeah.
Because you won't make as good choices as you might.
So much easier said than done to do that. I mean, to be proactive, or it's way difficult to be proactive on it because it takes a trigger sometimes to get something to happen. Just like when buying and selling a house, getting a mortgage, we say get pre-approved way early on just so you can get through the hurdles of that. I mean, there's so many things that, there's so much time in the day and there's so many things you can think about and you can take so many precautions and plan ahead. But you also don't want to plan too far in advance either.
Right.
But again, you don't want to have a catastrophic or big event happen to catapult it, and then you're forced to make a decision, and you kind of get pigeonholed into a few options instead of having all the options available, correct?
Right. And one of the things that we suggest for families, especially if you have even just the smallest little starting of concern for your parents, is to introduce home care and have them just come once a week for a couple hours.
Just to test it out.
Just come once a week. Maybe take them to their doctor appointments. Something, things that take time in your life. You have to take work off to go to a doctor appointment. Yep. Now's the time where you just a little bit, or they go grocery shopping. Go with the person to go grocery shopping. It's not, we don't want to come and take over. We want to come and support.
Right.
Yep.
So we go with that person, with grandma or mom or dad to the grocery store, making sure that the groceries are put away properly. Sometimes things, if memory's starting to fade a little bit, you come over there and there's a package of meat in the cupboard instead of into the freezer. Yeah. And, little things like that can happen. So
that's why your slogan, it's trademarked, is let our family care for yours. So you're kind of partnering with the family. So you're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show. We're talking about in-home care for you or a loved one. And we have Deb Nelson on, who is a CSA. We'll find out what that actually means. And she's a home watch caregiver. And Lisa Swanson, Envoy Mortgage, part of the show, talking about financing and lending. And a statistic that Deb said that I was wanted to get back to is 96% of people want to stay in their home.
Which I 100% agree
And you're
with.
talking senior people that have been polled. I imagine this is some sort of poll.
I think AAA or somebody did it because they're just
Makes total sense to me. Most of the people that I know personally in my family and have heard through friends and everything, the biggest battle, and I say battle because it becomes a battle for you if you've been through this or seen this happen or have to live this, is to get to convince someone to leave their home they've been in for 20, 30, 40, 50 years plus in a home. They've raised their kids, and everything has happened in that home. Pictures are all over the walls. They remember all the stuff in the house. I mean, just all these memories, and then you're transplanting that person into a foreign environment, which is a hospital-like kind of when you go into a nursing home. Not to say anything bad about them, but it can feel like that to them. And then you're getting emotional, and then how do you go through that battle? So so instead of fighting that battle, one option is, just as Deb said, is test out the option of in-home care. And it doesn't have to be someone's going to be living in the home with you 24/7. It can be once or twice a week, like you said. But that's 96% want to stay in their home, and that's a
well, I believe it because I know in my family, if I said let's go somewhere, they're punching me in the face.
Let's sell your house. Josh is like, let's sell your house and get you in somewhere. Looking for that next listing. We're like, let's go.
And you know, especially if your home is paid for, and you are still able to manage. I mean, the biggest reason to move is if you can't manage your home. It has many stairs and things like that. So you have to make the choice that's right for your family, and then the type of care and the amount of care needed. I think it's important to keep.
And
all those
how do you establish that? I mean, that's one thing that
that's what's great about home care in general. And Minnesota is a regulated state where home care is regulated by the Department of Health. And so there are many things that we must do according to the state regulations. And we are considered what's called a comprehensive home care agency, which means we could do that full range of care provided. The first thing that we do when we meet families is an RN assessment. And we, go through everything. Do they have hearing aids? What's their diagnoses? Do they have any form of dementia? Do they use assistive devices? Those kinds of things. And then we talk about their personal situation. Do they have family nearby? Do they have children who are involved? Do they have grandchildren involved? What do they still like to go to church every day? What are the or every week? What are the kinds of things that matter to them? And how can we support that and keep that continuing on in their lives so that they continue to live a life worth living? I mean, it's just because you get old doesn't mean you stop living and stop wanting to contribute and have something of value to offer. And so many times people get ignored and shuttled away to somewhere that their children think they're safe there, and they're no longer allowed to be. It can
alienate the certain personality. It can alienate them.
It can.
When we get into the next segment, what I want to ask Deb about is, how do you handle that as the person who says, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, or hey, loved one, I think this is something we should try." And then also, how do you get over the guilt that you personally would feel as being the son or daughter or loved one of this person, and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to be the one taking you to the bank. I'm not going to be the one getting you groceries," because you definitely probably want to help.
Yes.
But there's only so much you can do. And how do you get through those two things? But first, before we get to that, Deb, CSA.
Yes, Certified Senior Advisor.
You said that earlier. Okay, that makes sense.
It's training that's available. It's a 3-day course with a pretty substantial exam that you take, and then to keep up your CSA designation, you have to take CEUs over the course of time. and just to make sure that you're involved with seniors and
is it required
working with them.
to be
Not required.
Okay,
no.
so it's an additional.
Nope.
So also one thing that we also would like to touch on is paying for this stuff. How much does it cost? We'll get back into that, and we'll get Lisa Swanson on board on options for your house as an asset for that, and then also how you can get insurance if you are looking for long-term care, because I learned prior to the show how, and Josh and I were learning from Deb, how that can be not as easy as you think to actually work through the long-term care process. So with insurance anyway. So I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
Josh Roueche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show.
Oh, baby, I know you're getting old.
Welcome back to the Stockwell Roueche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
I'm Josh Roueche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Every Sunday, 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. You can find us at TalkTwinCitiesRealEstate.com, Facebook, Stockwell Roueche Show, 651-400-0773, 651-400-0773. If you have any questions for us, for our Lisa Swanson with Envoy Mortgage, for Deb Nelson with Home Watch Caregivers, we're happy to help in any way we can. Today's topic, we've gone into a lot already on in-home care, what it is, and about Deb Nelson, her story, how she got into the business. And we wanted to, before break, we were talking about, and even on break, we're talking about the guilt trip, and how if you are considering in-home care yourself, or you keep saying, oh, I don't need it, and you're denying it maybe, or your loved one or your family is thinking that you do need it, but they don't know how to approach it to you, or you're giving a guilt trip back. So, or you're a son or daughter, and then your parent gives you the guilt trip, like, you don't love me. Why are you having someone take care of me and not you? I raised you. I took care of you when you were, all those things, right, Deb?
Right.
It's very touchy. It can get very emotional, but we have to be sensible, and of course we want to help. There's very rare cases where kids
like the
probably
Sopranos, Tony Soprano, and all the stuff that he had to go through with his mom.
I don't watch it, Josh.
Oh my gosh, she just laid it on him.
Just laid it thick.
Oh my gosh.
Like what? What'd she say? Like, you don't love me, or what?
It would be, she would play games with it. Like, yeah, you don't love me. Your father would never allow this to happen. Stuff like that. Just laid it on him.
So you want to be sensible. You want to, but like I was saying, there's very few people that probably would say, I don't want to help at all my parents, right? I mean, so or my loved ones. So how do you, Deb? What's some of the stuff that you go through to do? There's some tips and advice for people, whether they're denying that they need it. The people that out there that might want it, that might want in-home care, or don't want in-home care, but you may need it, and the loved ones who have to maybe approach them about it.
Well, the most important thing is to remember every family is different. Mm-hmm. Every family will react to this situation differently, and every child and every parent will have their way. And so the important thing is to kind of try to be as objective as you can about your own family. And for example, I know there are men who absolutely don't want to give their mom a shower. I don't blame them.
Yeah,
and
I just thought of that, and
I don't want to either.
Or change their depends, or those are things that caregivers do, and there are very few parents who actually want their children to do that.
Yeah,
right.
And so when you bring in we hire certified nursing assistants. When you bring in a nurse level care to do that, you take away that piece of how uncomfortable that would feel to have that happening in your family. And people don't always think about that. There are many, many, many wonderful family caregivers that do those things for their parents and insist on doing those things for their parents because that's what they believe is their role, their job, because their parents raised them.
And when you say
we hear all of
family caregiver, you mean just the actual child or someone of the
adult
family.
children, or an aunt, a cousin. It could be anyone, a grandchild, any family member. But what people don't always know that happens is the toll that caregiving takes on a person, especially when you're seeing a person who, let's say they have Alzheimer's or dementia, and you see the decline in your family.
Mm-hmm. So not only they're watching every day, and you're seeing this slow decline, and it's got to be heartbreaking.
And then
partly, right?
At some point, we have a client right now who, his dementia is advancing, and he can't swallow anymore. He can't. He doesn't know that he has to go to the bathroom because his brain is no longer telling his body what to do.
Yep.
And if you were and then pretty soon he won't recognize his family. He won't recognize his
that's gotta
daughter.
be
He won't
hard, yep.
recognize his grandchildren. And to be part of that, you really have to be a amazing person to keep yourself
Composed
positive
and,
in that situation. So what we recommend is that, and what happens too is you become the caregiver and you're no longer the daughter or the son.
Oh.
You stop being the daughter. And what we want you to do is leave the care providing to home care, and you come and provide the love and support and care for your parents the way you always have, no matter what the relationship builds into or changes
and like
into.
Deb said earlier, is that there's when you do in-home care, it's not necessarily everything. If there's certain things you want to do, like we go grocery shopping every week on this day, continue to do those things. You can a la carte, if you will, or you can customize a plan exactly that meets what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But so how do you approach that though? As the guilt, back to that question about what is maybe some tips, like I could say, hey mom, what do I say?
Right. For the
before
family,
an accident happens, you know, and then she's like, I'm fine.
Fire.
What do we do here?
It's a lot about the language. It's a lot about, don't say you need help at home. Mom, we've decided you need help at home.
Okay.
A really good thing to say is, Mom, I was noticing that last week when we went to the grocery store, you had a little trouble getting the groceries in and out of the cart. Do you think maybe you could use a little support if I'm unable to take you to the grocery store? That you might just, it's really a lot about putting a scenario out there that's visible to you, and then let them tell you if they think, yes, they might agree with you that they might. It's harder, isn't it? Is your elbow sore? I couldn't tell, but I noticed that you had trouble reaching for that thing or putting it away, or it might be something as simple as, I came over and I noticed that there was burned steak on you burned your dinner. The oven was
still on.
The oven was on, or burned the dinner, or you do have to pinpoint things, but you don't want to
you don't want to be accusational and just say
exactly. I noticed
these
something.
are the 10 things that I think you should.
Yeah,
Jedi mind tricks is what it is.
And you do have to. We have a program we call the Snapshot program that we come in for 48 hours and just observe what's going on at home. Especially, it's great for families that the kids live out of state and they don't get to see their parents very often.
Yeah.
And we see the first 24 hours they're on their best behavior and everything gets put away and they're dressed and they've got their hair combed, and then the next 24 hours they're tired of putting on the show, so pretty soon you notice that they're just eating a piece of meat for dinner or some cereal or.
And are they usually alone? Are they usually alone? So is in-home care mostly single individuals home alone, or do you ever do couples? You do.
We have couples too.
I would imagine that would be less likely, but not.
No, actually, it happens quite a bit.
Really?
Because especially we have some client. We had a client. Actually, this is an interesting situation. They had been together for 69 years, and he had physical needs, and she had cognitive needs. She had Alzheimer's, and so together they were a really strong pair. The things that she did well, she could lead him down the hall and hold his arm, and he wouldn't fall down. And then he remembered how to get from they were in an assisted living facility, and we cared for them there. So he could get them back and forth to where they were going if she forgot, and then she could be the support. She was the one who was always singing the songs.
Perfect match for each other, and no wonder they lasted 60. I mean, no wonder they've been together 69 years. That's amazing.
And so for them, what happened is, a lot of things that people don't know about assisted living facilities, while they have their place, when care gets to be that they need one-on-one care, assisted living is not cut out for that. They have caregivers available, but one-on-one care becomes really expensive. So some families have to invite home care into their home within the assisted living facility.
So you don't just, so in-home care isn't just in-home of your home. It's
wherever home is.
Home, wherever you are.
Wherever home is.
That would be totally not what I would think you would.
Right.
You think assisted living is, everything is covered.
Right.
Why would I?
And you can get it, but it's the costs
it might not be
are
cost effective
right.
as having your outfit.
And in some assisted living places have in a home care agency within their building.
Okay.
And so then that's easy for you need 15 minutes to help me in the morning to get a shower or but you get charged every 15 minutes.
Okay.
So it's not included in your your rent. And I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that assisted living isn't good. There's a place.
Right.
Everybody
said,
has to make their choice.
And every scenario is different and all those
Right.
things.
Right.
And we'll get into the money later.
Well, I'm interested because I could probably use the service right now for myself. So.
Hey, our youngest client is in his 30s and our oldest is 95.
I was going to ask if there was
youngest client in the 30s and oldest is 95. Wow, that's sort of it does span the entire spectrum.
Yep.
That is awesome. So Deb, you're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
Josh Roueche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Deb Nelson, Home Watch Caregivers. Let our family care for yours. Talking about in-home care and how to do a delicate approach for your loved one to bring it up. When we come back on the next segment, what we want to talk about is the money, the finances, how you do this, and the cost of it, and then also Lisa Swanson will talk about some of that options of freeing up some money to maybe do this. When we come back, a couple tips that we got, a couple things we have coming up that I want to talk to you about, or tell you about. Minneapolis Remodeling Expo, April 10th, 11th, and 12th. www.homeshowcenter.com or call us 651-400-0773. We'll give you free tickets. 651-400-0773. We'll be in the radio show live from there on Sunday the 12th, 10 a.m., and we'll be there all weekend for landscape and remodeling ideas. Thanks for listening to the show today. We'll be back next segment with more on in-home care with Deb Nelson. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
Josh Roueche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
I hope I die before I get old.
Welcome back to the Stockwell Roueche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
Josh Roueche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Every Sunday, 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. Today's topic is in-home care. We're very honored to have Deb Nelson with Home Watch Caregivers here, and the owner of Home Watch Caregivers talking about in-home care, what it is, and how it might fit for you or a loved one. Lisa Swanson, partner with Envoy Mortgage, is here, and we're going to get into finances now and how you pay for some of these things that may happen for you or a loved one in-home care, assisted living, nursing home, you name it. A couple other things I wanted to touch base on. Upcoming shows, we're going to have Joshini.
Yes.
We'll be back. The great Karnak Jr.
And you say Joshini, Roshini, it goes both ways.
Joshini, Roshini. Karnak Jr. with predictions and more on the market predictions for the next quarter and the rest of the year. We'll be talking about the disease of addiction, and so we'll have a special guest from the Betty Ford, or what's the name of the? Hazelden Betty Ford facility. And then hard money. We'll have a hard money person on talking about how you can invest in real estate using hard money and then do a loan right afterwards to limit or minimize your capital into the projects. So very cool topics coming up here in the coming weeks. Real Estate Pros for a Cause. That is another event that I would encourage you to consider going to and tell your friends about it. It's April 16th, 6 to 9 p.m. It's at the Cambria Gallery, which is downtown Minneapolis. Brides Against Breast Cancer.org. That's a fundraising, a fun event. Free drinks all night. 10 of us agents will be your servers.
Jason will
or
be
servants.
in an apron.
Yes,
right?
we'll be wearing aprons, whatever else we can wear as servants, serving you. It'll be great food, great networking for anybody who wants to join for that. All the information from today's show you can find on YouTube. You can go to our page on YouTube. You can go to talktwincitiesrealestate.com and find it there, or you can call us 651-400-0773. Couple plugs. Barry White is a videographer. He's great. I would encourage you. We'll have his information on there if you have any video stuff that you need or want to do for whether it's a company event or a holiday or just a general video for something that you need professionally done. He's very, very good. He does all of our videography and puts it on YouTube for us and actually set up a channel and all that stuff for us. So very, very good contact to have. And his information will also be on our site. Back to
the show.
Money. That's why I'm delaying on this, because money, no one likes to talk about money. No, just kidding. What, Deb, what
Let's talk about
what are some of the
cost.
costs?
Yeah.
Right. So home care ranges, you can have an hour of care or 24 hours. So it ranges anywhere from $17 an hour to $50 an hour. You make sure when you're talking to home care agencies, everybody does it different, but so average is between $28 and $35 an hour.
Okay.
But like in our case, for a 12-hour and 24-hour shifts, we reduce the rate down to $17 and $22 an hour.
How does that compare
Not everybody
to?
does that.
So sorry to cut you off. How does it compare to assisted living? So in home care, if you were to just say 1, 2, 3, which one's most expensive? Which one's least expensive?
Well, it's really hard to compare
It is.
because,
Because the
but
hours.
in general, you can. So the way it works really is you have to look at the amount of care needed and then the cost of care that way. So
everybody's
if you look,
specific on
everybody
that,
it
yeah.
is, but make sure that when you are looking and comparing home care versus assisted living versus other options, like there are care suites, there are smaller facilities, that you know all of the parts that are included. So for example, assisted living might give you the cost for rent there, but then they have a care package that's in addition to that, and that can change it from $2,400 to $4,000 more per month for the care that you receive.
$7,000 a month.
Right. So home care for 24/7 is over $10,000 a month.
Is it?
But
Yeah.
you're getting one-on-one care. So when you look at that value of one-on-one care, you can't get one-on-one care anywhere else in any facility.
Even assisted living, it's what?
Or you're paying that same $10,000 in addition to what you already paid to live.
Got it. That makes sense.
So, so you really want, what we say to families is don't get more care than you need. A lot of times we'll have a daughter call and say, oh, my mom and dad need 24-hour care. We just got to have somebody who lives in, and, we get there and the parents are like, are you kidding? I don't want somebody here 24/7. I kind of, I could use a little help in the morning. Yeah, I could use a little help in the morning, getting dressed and having a shower 3 times a week, and then I can have help with dinner. And if you make me lunch, we have a client that we come for 4 hours in the morning. We make him a great breakfast. In fact, he has an appetizer for breakfast, and then he has breakfast. He has 2 breakfasts in the morning, and then we leave him a lunch, and then we come back at night and make dinner. Make sure he has great dessert. And then we clean the house in between.
I think it's company too. It just it gives them company to come over and just talk to and share things with. And as far as one other thing too, if you're thinking about long-term care, you want to ask questions, but I got to make sure that you at least have Zach Roue's information. Zach Roue's a partner of the show, Premier Group Agency. And you can call him at 763-515-1335, 763-515-1335. Zach Roueche. He'll be happy to help you if you have questions about long-term care and point you in the right direction.
Right.
We didn't get a chance to talk about long-term care. I think that's another whole show we could get on. And hopefully Deb will come back and maybe have someone who does long-term care on, like Zach. We should do that. But as far as a few minutes left in this segment, paying for this, you have a home that you've owned it for a long time. You've paid down the mortgage. You either own it free and clear, or your loved one owns it free and clear. What are some options you can do to potentially pay for some of these things? Lisa Swanson with Envoy Mortgage. What do you think? I mean, I've heard of reverse mortgage. I know lines of credit. Are those? What else? How do those work, and how would those pertain to someone in this situation?
Well, a line of credit is a great a great way to actually utilize that equity position that is free and clear, where one can just, as long as they qualify. So that would assume that they're getting some type of retirement income, or if they have the
some
ability.
income coming
Yep.
in,
So
right?
one would actually have to qualify, like anybody would if they're buying a new home, to get that line of credit, or even just to get a lump sum of cash. The nice thing is they could get a very low, extremely competitive interest rate if they do qualify.
Yep.
The alternative, which I think maybe has a bad reputation, but I feel like a reverse mortgage in the appropriate situation is an extremely great product to take advantage of. What the qualifying factors are very minimal. One has to meet a certain age criteria of age 62 or above.
Okay.
And a lender has a couple different ways in which they can do it. They can actually give the homeowner installments, similar, or opposite of paying for a mortgage monthly. They would actually, the lender would give them installments monthly, so that they would have extra cash flow monthly and take advantage of that equity. The I guess the homeowner is still the homeowner, just like a regular mortgage would work. And when they pass, or they pass it on to their heirs,
or when they move, even let's say
or they sell the home, whatever it may be. Exactly, it's really no different. The interest rate's a little higher, but the qualifying criteria is very minimal.
And it might be a better option. Of course, we want to have you talk to your financial planner and all these people, because you may have retirement stuff that might apply. There might be state aid or a program. I mean, there's just zillions of things that you really need an expert to talk about. And I know that Deb Nelson knows a lot of the people that would fall into that category to help you out. So definitely reach out, and also reach out to Lisa if you have questions about any, how could I qualify for a line of credit, or how does a reverse mortgage work? All that information, talk to InCitiesRealEstate.com or 651-400-0773. In our last minute here, Deb, could you share with us something that you might think, I know you have tons of other information, but what's one other thing that might be helpful for someone considering in-home care?
Yep. I think, in addition to their physical needs, you do have to keep in mind their emotional needs. I touched on it briefly, just the feeling of boredom or helplessness or loneliness. And that's, statistically, again, people who are happy and content live 2 years longer.
Really?
Than a person who's suffers from depression.
The physical so easy to see and pick apart.
And that's
the emotional we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And there isn't a pill you can take for being sad and lonely and depressed. You need relationships for that. And especially for our families to have kids from out of town. So it's nice to have someone there.
Well, thanks for listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results. Thanks to our guest. We're very honored.
Josh Roueche, RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
We'll be back next week, 10 a.m. Sunday. And remember, love yourself and love others. Thanks for listening.